من جملة خلقك أشكرهم لما أوليت من نعمك وأقومهم بما شرعت من شرعيك وأوقفهم عما حذرت من نحيك على صائر خلقك في يوم هذا وساعة هذه ومستقر هذا. إني أشهد أنك أنت الله الذي لا إله إلا أنت قائم بالقسط عدل في الحكم رؤوف بالعباد وأن محمدا عبدك ورسولك صلى الله عليه وسلم وخيرتك من خلقك حملته رسالتك فأدها وأمرته لصلاة الجمعة لأمته فنسح لها. اللهم فصل على محمد وآله أكثر ما صليت على أحد من خلقك واجزه عنا أفضل وأكرم ما جزيت أحدا من أنبيائك عن أمته إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. أما بعد. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. First of all, I admonish myself, then you all, on the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the key to success both in this world and the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us many blessings, and sometimes you are so blessed that you don't even realize how many blessings you have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so great that in the Holy Quran it says, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My mercy encompasses everything. Everything has Allah's mercy. And in Dua Kumail Imam Ali says that, you ask Allah, Allahumma inni as'aluka bi rahmatika allati wasi'at kulla shay. Oh Allah, I ask you by your mercy that encompasses everything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is great, and sometimes it is so great that we don't even realize that we have it. And many times, in so many things, so many blessings, every little thing is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, if you asked a fish, what is water? It wouldn't know, because it is completely surrounded by water at all times, that it doesn't even realize that it is in water. You will go around the whole river, come back and say, I don't know what water is. But as soon as you take out the fish and throw it on the sand or outside the water, it will ask, where am I? Where was I? Then you tell the fish that you were in water. What you were in is water. We are so much encompassed by Allah's mercy that we don't even realize that everything we have is mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The slightest things in our lives, everything is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this mercy is so great that had it not been for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, we would cease to exist. Even the breath that we take, even the food we chew, when we take it in, it is Allah's mercy that brings it to the stomach and does not take it to the lungs. You could eat and then it will end up in your lungs and your windpipe, and then you could choke to death. There are so many little things that if we realize that how much, I had a friend, he once came, and his one eye was closed. And I said, what happened? He said, my eyelid, the muscles on my eyelid have become weak and I cannot open my eye. So they have to do something for them to become strong again so that I can open my eye. The eyes were fine, but the eyelid could not open. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. There are so many little things that we don't even realize that these are all mercies. And there are, the mercy of Allah is so great that every step that we take and every movement and everything that around us is from mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This air, this everything, if He had seized this air, then we would die from not having oxygen. So you realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the parents, the love that you receive, everything around you is mercy. And there are many different words in Arabic for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only just rahmah, but lutf. This lutf it is lutf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is latif, He is subtle, but He is merciful, that He has given us divine leaders. In the books of Allah Mahilli, when you read about imamat, it says imamat is lutf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't need to guide you. You know why? Because He says, what is Islam? Siratun mustaqim, which is a straight path. On a straight path, you don't need any guidance. Did that make sense? When there are turns, that's when you need to find out, where do I go? On a straight path, you don't need to find out where to go. Where do you go? Straight. No, but I want to go to so-and-so place. It's straight. No, but where do I turn? You don't turn. Just keep straight. When you keep straight, then you will get to your destination. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran very clearly, the path to me is a straight path. وَأَنِعْبُدُونِي هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. And only worship me. This is the straight path. When you are going off the right path, that's when you're deviating. That's when you are basically looking for shortcuts. There are no shortcuts on the straight path. So therefore you need no guidance. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there are two types of guidance. One is, in Arabic they say ira'atu tariq, and the other one is isalu ila al-matlub. Ira'atu tariq is to show the path. When someone says, I want to go to so-and-so place, you say, you come out of this center, you turn right, at the end of the traffic light, you turn left. You guide them. This is called ira'atu tariq. You show them the path. Isalu ila al-matlub is to say that I am going to that destination. Come with me. I'll take you there. This is called isalu ila al-matlub, to take the person to the destination. On the straight path, you don't need either, but Allah is so great, He has sent both. Ira'atu tariq is Quran. The Quran shows you the path. Yes, shows you the path. And isalu ila al-matlub, taking you to destination, is Imam. Just follow the Imam, he is going to the paradise. And even then people get lost. People still get misguided. The most important part in life is that wake up the humanity. The religion comes later. And there'll be the word used by the Imam alayhi salam in Usul al-Kafi. I would say it, but please don't get offended. It's by the Imam alayhi salam. Okay? So I'm going to use it. The word he has used for people who misguide you, he says qutta'ut tariq. Robbers, in English you translate, yes? There's a difference between a thief and a robber. People understand that? Do I need to explain? Thief, someone who just steals from you. Robber is someone who comes and grabs and takes it from you, yes? Imam says the scholar that misguides you is like a robber. Qutta'ut tariq, the ones who are in the, when you're traveling, the people in the way, they will stop you and rob you. They're called Qutta'ut tariq, the robbers. So if people don't suppress your humanity, we are all born, this is the Shia belief, yes? We're all born honest. We're all born merciful. We're all born just. We're all born with all of these qualities. It is a society that corrupts us. So if we don't allow the people to suppress our humanity, we're all good. So now you have people who suppress, if you have humanity, if you keep using your intellect, your shu'ur, your basic intellect, wisdom, you will come to Ahlulbait AS. Why? Because the aql says, go to the most knowledgeable, go to the most merciful, go to the most... All of these qualities, who possesses those qualities? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ali Muhammad alayhi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Yes, everyone? It is your heart that says support the people who are oppressed. Your mind tells you that if there are people who are being oppressed, you have to be on their side. But then you allow others to say that, well, they deserve it. Yes? So there'll be many people out there who will tell you and misguide you by saying that you can keep quiet. You know, the most important thing is you don't just dehumanize a person day one. Yes? You say the other. Then you say that dangerous. Then, you know, there is a process. Then you say, okay, they're not like humans. They're not like human beings. They are very dangerous. And because they are other, you have a fear anyway. I hope people are paying attention to this point. You know, when you don't know someone, you have a fear. Amir Romani al-Islam says, An-nasu a'da'u ma jahilu. People are enemies of what they don't know. Yes? So there is, the ignorance creates fear and, they are different. Because they're different, they may be dangerous. People created all of those things about the Red Indians. You know, so many films were made in my childhood, all television shows, you know, films about Red Indians. Now you don't see them. They didn't say that the Europeans went and killed 100 million people. And those people, you know, it was their place. They said, they are dangerous, we have to go and kill them. Did you all? Because they are dangerous, we have to go and kill them. Why do you have to go and kill them? They did the same thing in Africa. In each country, they killed millions. You can't even count. They don't even know the exact figures. You know, like Kenya, 7 million just in one country. Congo, 2 million. You know, like for each country, they killed not thousands, millions. Just in America, 100 million. 20 million in Australia. Can you imagine? What if the other people thought you are dangerous because you're killing everyone? Well, let's go and kill them. How would you feel? Now they're thinking, you know, we got away with killing millions and hundreds of millions of people we killed. We got away with it. And we've only killed 40,000 people, you know, 18,000 children, 12,000 women, and we are stuck. Is everyone saying, why are you killing? Yes? Within 1 week, so many developments have happened. So now the International Court of Justice is issuing the arrest warrants for 4 people, the Hamas and 2 from Netanyahu and his government. And the same people that were praising the arrest warrants for Putin are saying, well, these are, I'm not going to say some of those words. Double standards. Can you imagine? And then you ask questions. You know, it was only last week when Blinken, you know, the American Secretary of State said, this is inhuman. Putin has now bombed a university in Ukraine. What about the 5 universities and 8 hospitals in Gaza? But they had reasons. What are the reasons? They have the right to defend themselves. Well, he may be defending himself as well. The people in the university, you know, they're all probably planning against him, and so they will all. If you want to justify an oppression, wallahi, I could give you reasons from day to night to justify any oppression. I could, and I've never been in government. I've never held a position. I've never had to, you know, like some of the things, you know, even the mainstream media comes out with sometimes the truth, and obviously then, you know, because it's live, they can't stop the person. But then, like, be careful what you say. You're on so-and-so channel. A journalist, yes? Many journalists have been removed, yes? As if I'm the only person who knows. The election date has been announced. He said, well, none of the parties are popular at the moment. For right reasons. And there are so many people now resigning from both parties and leaving politics completely. When you have incompetence, you know, there is a whole debate. I went to a country, I'm not sure if I should name the country, and there was a debate in the civic society, you know, the top intellectuals What is better, incompetence or corruption? Can you imagine? I'm not talking about people in the street, I'm talking about the intellectuals. So they were debating, what is better, incompetence or corruption? Guess who won? So they said, corruption is still better. At least you can pay and get your way done. Incompetence is worse. Completely, on the basics of Islam and Quran and Hadith. A corrupt person has no place in society. One of the major developments that has happened is that there are some European countries that have recognized Palestine as a state. Ireland, Spain, and Norway have recognized Palestine as a state. And there are many other countries that are I'm not talking about Asian and African countries. So many South African, South American and Asian countries have already accepted. Out of 196 that are members of United Nations, there are over 100 countries that have accepted. We're talking about now European countries. Now, Germany, France have already said that if, after the arrest warrants from the ICC, Norway and many other countries have said they will arrest the Israeli Prime Minister. Can you imagine, could you even think that it would come to this position? We are living in an age where we are now, when I started saying these things 2-3 years ago that we are sleepwalking into World War III, people would sometimes, say, modernized, in delusions. And now it is not only just on social media, but even mainstream media is now. I've seen some of the channels this week that one of the countries will use one of these reasons to start World War III, meaning nuke the other. So you can imagine that we are now, Europe is preparing for a war with Russia. So Europeans are now set to go to war. When do we have that war? I don't know. Will they plan more? Will it happen within the next few months, this year, next year? But it'll happen. Chinese yesterday and the day before, they have now surrendered the whole of Taiwan. So there is a war prepared between China and America in the Chinese oceans. That will obviously set the tone for the rest of the world. Iran and Israel are probably going to go to war. Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, I didn't wish to name, but he is very accurate, and he says that we believe we will not have a big war. Small things will finish the whole of the... but there are Americans now defending that Israel has a right to use a nuclear weapon, nuclear bomb against Iran or even Palestine. So because Americans had to do it, I'm not going to name the senator who said it this week, and he said the Americans had to do it in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan to stop the war, and that's what Israel may have to do. So there is a war prepared there, and then obviously there are many countries which are puppets to the United States, so they will go to war and attack them next door just for pleasing their masters. When you have corrupt masters, then you have corrupt slaves. So there are many people who are now feeling that they are free, but they don't realize that they are slaves in a different way, in ideology. This week we also had the crash of the helicopter in Tabriz. And now investigations are underway, and we will find out what exactly was behind it. No one has accepted responsibility. In fact, the two main countries that were going to be accused have both denied any responsibility or wrongdoing. Rightly so, otherwise it will start a war. But we'll find out by the investigations And then will those investigations be accepted by the international community, or will they say that these are corrupt, they are being used? Both are possibilities. Unfortunately, the countries that have offered help in the investigation are also on the wrong end of the spectrum, China and Russia. So they are saying that we'll help with the investigations. Will the West accept the investigation carried out by China and Russia with Iran? I don't think so. So we will see escalations and developments. Now there are certain economists in the West. They are saying that the West has no choice but to go to war because of the economical mess they're in. Many people believe that wars happen in good times. Wars never happen in good times. Wars only happen in bad times, when there is an economical crisis. The First World War happened in economical crisis. The Second World War happened after the Great Depression. Yes, everyone? So wars only happen in bad times. To sell weapons and to blame. We didn't destroy the economy. It's the others. Who was running the country? Is it a sovereign country? For 14 years you've been in government, and you say, well, the people who are outside the government, they are to blame. And many people will buy it. Am I making sense, or am I? So many people will buy those arguments. They will say, yes, the others are to blame. Many people made it as a joke, but this is reality. I'll say it, if I offend someone, then I apologize from before. A person, an immigrant, he said, why did you come to this country? He said, I was watching a British television news channel, and a guy was, screaming out loud, and he said, oh, these immigrants, they're taking all the good jobs, all the big houses, all the good women. He said, well, that's where I want to be. All the top houses, all the good jobs. He said, if it is for all foreigners, then I should, that's why I came to England. Can you imagine? You have made a joke of the country. These people, they don't even realize when you point fingers, they don't realize you're pointing one finger to the others. There are four, the other three at yourself. You make a mockery of the entire system and say that, I was watching a program against the immigrants, and we said, we don't understand. We get paid the same, but how come they have so many things and we don't? Because they are here to earn and save, and they don't go to pubs and clubs and don't waste their money, and they're saving it. You don't realize the mindset of the people that are working hard, who are immigrants, how hard they work. And I have seen young boys come from other countries. I had a case from, I'm not going to mention which London council borough. This is a real story. I'm not going to name the country. Well, I can. There was an Afghani boy who was underage. He had, under Taliban, he had migrated. And the council borough said that, he told us he's a Shia. So we want to know if he's getting, becoming extremist, or is he going to do something? So I said, what are the signs? If you discuss, I will be able to tell you if he's becoming an extremist or not. And they said, he's always saying that I have to do something for my family. Wallahi, this is true. Most of the people, even I can hear their sisters laughing. I said, sorry? So they had a proper meeting, they were really concerned. They said, he's becoming an extremist. I said, how? What? He said, he's always talking about, I want to do something for my family. So I said, what do you think he's going to do? He said, he's probably going to kill someone for his family, because his family was killed. I said, what he's talking about is, I have to do something for my family. My family is suffering financially. I have to get work to support them. He said, oh my God, we've been monitoring him all the time that he's going to, do something. Can you imagine? This is I haven't even named the council. I'm not going to say which London council borough. They were serious about this boy becoming an extremist. Sometimes you look at the system, you think, really, did they rule the world? That's how they ended the world rule, You can imagine, because if we are incompetent, in leading our countries properly, others will come and take over. Others will always. Remember, if you don't now, the final thing that I want to say is that elections are coming now, and we will again be, do you know the Shia numbers in this country? Can anyone ever imagine? So there are over 500,000 Iraqi Shias in this country, well, Muslims. 70-80% of those are Shia. Then over 500,000 Iranians there are. The government figures are there are 1.7. 40% of the Muslims in the country are from Pakistan. 40%. And the government says about 1.7 million. I don't accept the government figures, and I've all of the books that have, recent books, 3 books that have come out on Muslims, I've been interviewed in all of them, and I've always questioned. So I have said it to the BBC and others that I don't accept the government figures. So they are saying that there are about 6.5%. When they were saying 4.8%, I was saying about 8 to 10% Muslims in the country back in the day, 12, 13 years ago. So I believe that there are over 10% Muslims in the country. Now, if there is a nuclear attack on London, who dies? Do you go around seeing so many white people outside? You see us more, yes? The colored. So they're happy that if it gets nuked, you get rid of all the foreigners, 2 million in one day. That was a joke, please. I'm being recorded. Yeah, I do joke, honest to God, I do. The reality is that, the figures are, they're saying that Islam is the biggest religion in this country. Really? 6.5%? And you said no, the rest of the people don't even practice their religion, so Islamic is the biggest religion. It's the biggest threat in this country. Really? Are we a threat? You can imagine sometimes, if you threw out all the Muslims, NHS would collapse. Many of your council brothers, there are over 800 councillors in the country. Do you know that, Muslim councillors? In every field, there are Muslims. If you threw out all the Muslims, the country would collapse. There are people who have written on it. I'm talking about the top jobs to the bottom jobs. Yes? From the taxis to mill workers to the doctors, accountants, every vacant field, they say that if you threw out the Muslims from this country, the country would cease to work. Because in every field, there'll be such a shortage. So with all the services that we're providing, we're not a threat. We are a help. The taxes that we are paying and everything. So the thing that I wanted to say is that with the government figures, 4-point-something million Muslims, I believe, if France has 7 million Muslims. Anyone been to France here? Have you seen more Muslims in France? Just look at Paris and go out and look at Britain. I have been to over 80, 90 cities and towns in this country. And I was driving in Wales in a city with some scholars, and I said, I think there'll be no Muslims here. I don't think any Pakistanis. And suddenly a Pakistani woman walked with shalwar kameez. And I said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Can you imagine? So the country has, if France has 7 million, there must be at least 7-8 million Muslims here. Now, we believe there could be somewhere between 1.2 to 1.4 million Shias in the country. Can you imagine 1.2 million votes? What difference that could make? With 329,000 Jewish, okay, fine. The Jewish population, they have 36 or 37 member parliament, and they have some of the biggest businesses in the country. Yes, they are some of the biggest donors of the political parties, both parties. In fact, most of the parties, yes, they are some of the biggest donors. Shias by default have been in opposition since Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and have been inactive, in politics for right reasons, taqiyya and everything. But, we don't realize our strength and our power. I'm not saying, come and start. There are many, many Shias now contesting. There are many, many people in good positions. And we have to make point. We have to be heard. We have to make sure that there are people who have resigned from some of the two main parties, fought independently and won. And on the issue of the Palestine. And sometimes, they make it look extremists, hate mongers are protesting in the streets of London. A propaganda only works to a certain time. Okay? A majority of the Muslims didn't even take part in the marches, yes? It is the white people, white skin, blue eyes that were participating, more than 80-90% of the people that were in the streets. So we have to make sure that we are active, and I'm not going to say to who to vote for or what to do, but we have to be proactive and make a difference and be heard. We need to make sure that we make our points, that these are the things that we are against. And sometimes, you know, the media creates a lot of fear. Please, please, please. We are followers of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They will create fear that, oh, if you're voting, if you're speaking, we have nothing to hide. We are not criminals. We are law-abiding citizens. We have the right to speak. So rather than accepting the media's pressure and saying fear, you know, the biggest threat is not terrorism. The biggest thing is fear. And they create that. They're powerful. You know, they can do that. But don't let the fear get to you. Yes? If the children of Imam Hussein alayhi salam can stand up against someone like Yazid and say, we will not. They were not terrorists. They were captives, but they spoke. Do you know that it was the ladies and the children with Imam Sajjad that made the difference? The Shuhada's sacrifice would have gone completely unheard and lost had it not been for Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, Zainab Kubra salam alayha, the ladies and the children. Yazid had gathered, you know, like surrounded them and killed them. No one would have known or heard anything about them. It was a sacrifice of those ladies and children that made the sacrifice of those shuhada be heard. Otherwise, Yazid had given a fatwa, these were terrorists. Yes, this is what he called them, Bughat. Do you know that? He called them Baghis, Bughat. They were traitors. They were terrorists against the government. It was Zainab Kubra spoke in every street with her hands tied. My brother was not a traitor. He spoke the truth and he did what he did for the sake of Rasulullah, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah. This is Zainab Kubra. This is the power of speech. So if we become fearful and say, no, we will, you know, if we speak, then we will be criminalized. No, for speaking, no one can criminalize you. So, you know, I speak with so much courage every week. Today I have been, you know, I have controlled myself to speak the lightest because I see, you know, half the faces are new in this Jummah Namaz. And I don't want to, you know, frighten them all as, oh, this guy is frightening, you know, dangerous. You know, he's going to say things, you know, that will probably get us all banned. But honest to God, so much fear has been created by the media that our people have bought it. Don't buy the fear. They cannot do anything. We are law-abiding. I myself will never do anything criminal. I'm always law-abiding, and therefore I will, you know, within the boundaries, I always speak. I know my boundaries, and I speak and criticize within those boundaries. So I would urge that we make a difference, inshallah, in the oncoming elections. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma lakal hamdu badi as-samawati wal ard. Dhal jalali wal ikrami Rabbal arbabi wa ilaha kulli ma'luh wa khaliqa kulli makhluqin wa waritha kulli shay. Laysa kamithlihi shay'un wa huwa bi kulli shay'in muhit. Anta Allahu la ilaha illa anta al-ahad al-mutawahhid al-fard al-mutafarrid. Wa anta Allahu la ilaha illa anta al-karim al-mutakarrim al-azim. والصلاة والسلام على محمد النبي الرحمة سيد المرسلين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلي بن أبي طالب سيد الوسيين. اللهم صل على محمد وفاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد والحسن المجتبى حجة الله على الخلق أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد والحسين الشهيد المظلوم وارث أمير المؤمنين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلي بن الحسين زين العابدين اللهم صل على محمد ومحمد بن علي باقر علم الأولين والآخرين اللهم صل على محمد وجعفر بن محمد الصادق الصديق والمقتدى بآبائه الصالحين اللهم صل على محمد وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم من أولاد النبيين اللهم صل على محمد وعلي بن موسى الرضا من عترة بررة المتقين اللهم صل على محمد ومحمد بن علي الجواد ولي المؤمنين اللهم صل على محمد وعلي بن محمد السراج المنير إمام الخاشعين اللهم صل على محمد والحسن بن علي سيد الأوصياء المنتجبين اللهم صل على محمد والخلف القائم المهدي المنتظر الحجة اللهم صل على محمد وعلى بعد آبائه على خلقك المؤدي عن نبيك ووارث علم الماضيين من الوسيين الذي ببقائه بقيت الدنيا وبيمنه رزق الورى وبوجوده ثبتت الأرض والسماء وبه يملأ الله الأرض قسطا وعدلا كما مولى الظلم وجورا وعجلنا اللهم ظهوره إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم افتح لنا أبواب توبتك ورحمتك ورزقك الواسع إنا إليك من الراغبين وأتمم لنا إنعامك إنك خير المنعمين اللهم اجعل بقية أعمارنا في أداء فرض الجمعات والحج والعمرة ابتغاء وجهك يا رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين परवरदिगार हम सब की आक़िबत बखैर फरमा गज़ा के मुसलमानों पर रहम फरमा परवरदिगार दुनिया भर के हालात ख़राब है रहम फरमा इस मस्जिद इमाम की खिदमत गुजारों की तौफ़ीक़ात में इजाफ़ा फरमा इस इमाम को तरक्की इनायत फरमा परवरदिगार साहिब ज़मान के ज़हूर में ताजील फरमा परवरदिगारा हमारी हालत ज़ार पे मुसलमानों की हालत ज़ार पे रहम फरमा रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम बिहक़्क़ि मुहम्मद व आलिहि तय्यबीन अत्ताहिरीन अलमासूमीन।
Allahu Akbar. Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdih. Rabbi salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. بجاه محمد وآله الطهار. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الأول قبل الإنشاء والإحياء، والآخر بعد فناء الأشياء، العليم الذي لا ينسى من ذكره ولا ينقص من شكره ولا يخيب من دعاه ولا يقطع رجاء من رجاه. اللهم إني أشهدك وكفى بك شهيدا، وأشهد جميع ملائكتك وسكان سماواتك وحملة عرشك ومن بعثت من أنبيائك ورسلك وأنشأت من أصناف خلقك، أني أشهد أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك، ولا عديل ولا خلف لقولك ولا تبديل، وأن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله عبدك ورسولك، أدى ما حملته إلى العباد، وجاهد في الله عز وجل حق الجهاد، وأنه بشر بما هو حق من الثواب، وأنذر بما هو صدق من العقاب. اللهم ثبتني على دينك ما أحييتني، ولا تزغ قلبي بعد إذ هديتني، وهب لي من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. صل على محمد وآل محمد، واجعلني من أتباعه وشيعته، واحشرني في زمرته، ووفقني لأداء فرض الجمعات وما أوجبت علي فيها من الطاعات، وقسمت لأهلها من العطاء في يوم الجزاء، إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Assalamu alaikum. Surah Fatiha is requested for Ayatollah Syed Abul Qasim Al-Khoui, Ayatollah Syed Ruhullah Khomeini, Ayatollah Ibrahim Raisi, and Hussein Amir Abdullian, all marhumin ulama, the deceased family members of today's Tabarruk sponsor, and the marhumin of all here present. Al-Fatiha. Dua Shifa is requested for all those who are suffering or unwell today. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. And finally, if I may request all of you to please make your donations for Jummah. Increase your donations for Jummah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة وقد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته يقوم ويقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله الحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله الحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.